Ladies and gentlemen of Knucklehead Nation, welcome to episode 5 of Keeping It Clean with Manny Robles. I'm your host, the FightersRep, along with that handsome guy you see on your screen right now with a really big beard, Manny Robles. What's going on, Manny? How are you, brother?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. I'm looking forward to another show.
Manny, you sound way better than you did last week.
Yeah, I'm a lot better now. Yeah, thank God. I'm been taking care of myself, taking a lot of vitamins, a lot of vitamin C, and a lot of supplements to take care of that immune system.
For sure, Manny. And I wanted to ask, Chris Zavala, he was taken off a card not too long ago
Right.
because of this whole pandemic situation. Have you heard anything about his health?
Yeah, absolutely. I stay in touch with him from time to time. He's doing a lot better. He's back in training. He's a young kid, so it's a lot easier for him to fight the virus, and he's definitely been fighting. He's been definitely keeping himself in shape. So I'm hopeful I'll be able to pick up the phone and call his promoter in a couple of weeks and let him know that to get him back on schedule.
I love it, and I look forward to, maybe we get Chris on the show at some point or get to interview him in person, see how he's doing, see how he's feeling.
My pleasure, absolutely. I'm sure he'll be happy to be on the show.
Manny, today's episode is a special one. We're not just focused on the fights between fighters today. We're focusing also on a fight between promoters, which is
Oh
always
yeah,
which is always interesting and juicy.
it's getting a lot more interesting now, isn't it?
It
we'll
it
be
sh-
talking about we'll be talking about promoters going at it, not fighters, but promoters.
it sure is, and I definitely don't. I definitely hope not to go at anybody as a promoter myself. But we're talking about two big time promoters here. Dana White versus Bob Arum. They've kind of been going back and forth
Yes.
for quite a while now. For quite a while. I mean, what do you kind of know about the beef? Because
Uh, well, it happens at every level, you know,
yeah,
and that's what's interesting, and that's what's intriguing about this is that it happens at every level. We're talking about the top promoter in the UFC versus one of the top promoters in boxing, and Bob Arum. It's definitely interesting. I've been reading some of the quotes and some of the comments that they've both been making about each other, and it's pretty hasty. It's pretty nasty. It's pretty nasty stuff. A lot of we're trying to keep it clean, and they're not. They're a lot of low blows have been thrown around.
they are, man. I'm not sure if they could handle being on this show for that long, considering the title of our podcast, man.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I haven't heard exactly what Bob Arum has been saying. I've been more paying attention to kind of the UFC and Dana White's comments because he tends to make them in the post fight interviews, and I really like the UFC's post fight interviews.
Hmm.
So I really don't know much of what Bob Arum has been saying, but man, Dana White, like you said, he's been going in really hard on Bob Arum, and he's going as far as making fun of the viewership that Bob
Correct.
Arum is getting.
Well, it's very simple. You want to talk about viewership? It has a lot to do with the fights you put up. People, especially boxing fans, hardcore boxing fans, they know what they're looking at.
Yeah,
They know what they're watching. And if you're watching lopsided fights, if you're watching fights that are not evenly matched, you can't fool the fans. They're not going to stay there and watch. When you already know the outcome before the fight it happens, before the fight itself, you already know what's going to happen. You already know who the winner's going to be. And why would you want to sit around to watch that? You know what I mean? With all due respect, in the UFC, you're watching fights that are a lot more even, and you're looking at fighters that are not afraid to lose. they're not afraid to take a loss.
Wow.
You
Wow.
instead, they're in there, trying to create opportunities for something bigger, for a bigger future, a bigger payday. So I respect that a whole lot.
Manny, you're kind of you're surprising me. You always surprise me, but I should know better because when I first met you, I approached you about the whole Andy Ruiz situation.
Uh-huh.
You came very honest. You came very clean with me. You kept it very clean with me.
That's right.
You kept it very authentic, and it sounds to me like you're saying that the UFC puts on much more even fights than boxing, and that's kind of a an open wound that Dana White could kind of jab at.
Yeah, I suppose so. The thing is that for us in boxing to see the bigger, better fights, fighters got to get paid.
Yeah,
And they deserve to get paid. See, make I don't know what fighters get paid in the UFC, but fighters in boxing said if I'm gonna put up my undefeated record, I got to get paid. And that's a justification of why they might be taking on lesser opponents.
yeah,
We see a lot of surprises now. We see a lot of things happen in boxing where you might think that you might have an easy fight, you might have a tune-up fight, and all of a sudden you have a guy that's coming at you, that's hungry, that's not afraid, and prepared and ready and willing to go in there and take your undefeated record away from you.
yeah. That's something I've definitely I've said over and over again on the channel and on the show that I think the UFC fights tend to be a lot more even, and it's interesting that you bring up fighter pay because that's another thing that's really been in the news a lot lately, and Dana White has kind of been in the crosshairs, um,
Mhm.
especially now during the pandemic. He's kind of
Right.
been using it. I don't know if he's using it as an excuse, and I don't know if that excuse is legitimate or not. But it looks like a lot of people are very upset about what they're being paid in the UFC, including my personal favorite, my Miami boy from my guy from Miami, Jorge Masvidal.
Mm.
I'm not sure. Have you been following this sort of complaints that Dana
Well,
White's been
well,
receiving lately?
no, but I've heard a little bit about how fighters are being underpaid in the UFC. I don't know to what extent. There are levels to the game, obviously. It just depends on the fighter.
Yeah.
It depends on the popularity of the fighter. Look at Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia was offered $200,000 to fight for on July the 4th, and he turned the fight down because he doesn't think it's enough money.
Wow.
My understanding is it's 200,000 for the main event. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it has everything to do with money. It has everything to do with him feeling he's being underpaid.
And I do think, when you compare boxing salaries to MMA salaries still have quite a ways to go to reach a boxing salary. I think $200,000. I think a lot of MMA fighters would jump at that. But at the same time, Ryan Garcia has kind of created his own hype through Instagram and social media. He's become a big star in his own right.
You know what? Yeah, I gotta tip my head off to the kid. He's really promoted himself. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
he's really he's got a he's I guess I suppose he's got the right people around him to really guide him in promoting an image. Selling an image to the public, to the crowd, to the boxing fans and the non-boxing fans as well. And they're turning around. They're looking at Encina. They're looking at this kid, and he's causing a lot of commotion in a positive way,
Yeah, yeah.
making a lot of noise. So people want to see what the fuss is about. And I mean, the kid, he thinks he should get paid more money. That's something to be, fixed by by his promoter, Golden Boy Promotions, and obviously himself and his people. I don't know what kind of because my understanding is he just signed a contract with Golden Boy, or re-signed a contract with Golden Boy. That is,
Yeah, yeah.
so I don't know what the terms were, but this is, I mean, 200,000 is pretty good money. For a main event fight on July the 4th, no public, I suppose. And then we got to look at the opponent too.
Right, right. And that's the other thing. That's the other thing. Well, I mean, I want you to, continue to expand on that. But $200,000, I mean, you mentioned that, July 4th without an audience, Manny. I mean,
Right, correct.
how much of a hit should boxers expect to take, do you think, in a time like this where the promoter can't even collect at the door? They can't even collect the
Correct,
gate.
correct. Yeah, I think it goes both ways. I think that the promoter and the fighter, of course, they have to be willing to work with one another, the management teams, and with the considering the circumstances and considering the situation that we're all going through nowadays. I think that everybody, both parties, all parties should be able to work with one another, including Dana White and Bob Arum. I don't think I don't think this is healthy for either sport. For them to both be going at it and grabbing each other by the neck. Not literally, but
Right, right, right.
they're going at throwing low blows at one another and saying negative comments, and I'm not saying either person is right, but I don't think it helps either sport.
Big shout out to everybody in the chat right now. We've got Kevin from Chicago, Fight Life Nation, our brother Marco Martinez, Paco Imero, X3, Mike Colleen. Shout out everybody. Appreciate you guys joining us. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button right here below and the bell notification icon next to it. And join me and Manny for Keeping It Clean every Monday at 7 p.m. where we talk about mostly boxing, but the fight game. And Manny, you've become pretty interested in MMA lately.
I have, because I mean it's boxing too,
Yeah, yeah.
It's boxing, and you appreciate the sport. You appreciate. I mean, I sit there and I watch, how the martial arts and how boxing is very much part of their game. So you get to appreciate it, absolutely.
Davey L sign in, says peace all. Peace, Davey L. Thank you for joining us as well. Manny, one very bully-like sticking point that Dana White seems to keep repeating is the fact that Bob Arum, was talking smack about him for wanting to put on fights.
That's the whole issue, right?
Right, and then Top Rank went ahead and put on fights. And then, now he's saying that Bob Arum is talking about even having fans in
Teofimo and how could correct with the Teofimo and Lomachenko fight, talking about even having fights, and that's a fight that has to happen, that has to have fans.
Yeah.
It has to, even if we have to wait until next year. But I definitely want to be there for one, and I know you do too. And these are the type of fights that that need the fans. That fans have to be there, even if we have to wait a little longer. But I don't think it's fair for anybody, including the fighters. Fighters fight, and they're willing to fight. They're willing to fight in their backyard if they have to.
Yeah.
But and with all fairness, I think that I think we would be losing out on a lot if we were not there. If we didn't have the opportunity to be there, and the fighters would as well. And monetarily speaking, they would definitely take a big hit. Both the promoters, the fighters would. So is it worth waiting for? I believe so.
Does a part of you, circling back to Ryan Garcia, Manny, does a part of you think that he's, maybe being a little bit foolish considering the present circumstances, turning down a fight for $200,000 in a situation where, we can't even collect the gate? I mean, because if most promoters are like myself, and I think they are, the majority of the revenue until you become a massive promotion is at the gate. You know, it's not really
Right.
in pay-per-view.
Well, I believe he is. I believe he's being a little bit selfish, but he's young. He's a young man. You know, he's got a lot to learn, and he's got to do it for the fans. You know what I mean? I'm sure
Yeah.
that you're gonna make a $200,000 payday. You know your opponent's not gonna be. You know, you're not fighting Lomachenko. You're not fighting Teofimo. You're not fighting Haney. You're not fighting any of those guys. You know what I mean? So do it for the fans.
Yeah.
And people are gonna tune in regardless of who he fights. You know, so that's pretty good money, man. I mean, consider it a tune-up fight. You could consider it a tune-up fight. You can consider it a stay busy fight, and people are gonna tune in because he has a big fan base, and do it for do it for his fans, for the boxing community. You know what I mean? To give us boxing back. And I gotta commend, regardless of Dana White and Bob Arum going at it and being negative and saying what they're saying about one another. I still have to commend them both for taking a step forward and bringing us back sports.
Yeah, I'm so happy that the sports I love the most, which basically combat sports, are back. And man, it is crazy to me that Ryan Garcia wouldn't take that 200,000 in a situation like this. I mean, even baseball players right now, even baseball is
Right.
kind of, they can't even negotiate their salaries to get back in the fight game. I think a lot of selfishness is kind of showing itself in these
Correct.
times. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I agree 100%. But promoters, let me tell you something about promoters, man. They'll move on to the next guy.
Yeah.
And that's Golden Boy. I mean, hey Ryan, you can't fight. Okay, you're going back to the end of the line, man, because we're moving on to the next guy. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Promoters are cutthroat, man. This is a business. Well, they're not gonna stop doing business on the count of one fighter. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right. Right.
There's no one fighter that's bigger than the sport itself. No,
I
no one
love.
fighter. No one fighter is bigger than. No one fighter is bigger than boxing. No one fighter.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I love that and agree with that. And I think, that's very much Dana White's attitude as well. Because, again, Jorge Masvidal, John Jones, a lot of guys have been in the news recently complaining about their pay. I think even Curtis Blaydes, who fought on Saturday night, was complaining about his pay. He went in there, he put on a very boring performance, even though he got the win. And Dana White was kind of like, hey, you're going to talk all that shit and say you're going to ragdoll somebody and you're going to go in there and put on a performance like that. You just look stupid. That's actually what Dana White said. He says, you look stupid. So he's definitely a guy that's willing to just move right along if people don't want to
All
fight.
right. Well, what are you gonna do? Like I said, no. There's no single fighter. There's no fighter in boxing that's bigger than the sport.
Right,
You
right.
know, same thing with Ryan. With all due respect to Ryan, man, you can't fight. Guess what? They're moving on to the next guy, and people will forget about you. They will forget.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
I love that you say that because, I really couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm all for fighters making more money. I'm 100% for it. But that's part of the issue with the UFC right now, and I think why the pay is still, I guess, relatively low is because the guys that do kind of say, well, to heck with this, I want more money, they always just get jumped over by the guy that's under them that's willing to fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. There's always that guy.
Right. Correct. And there's and I can't explain to myself. We're going back to the Ryan Garcia situation. If they're offering him 200,000, he must have agreed to that because he just signed a contract with Golden Boy. So that's where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not his attorney, I'm not his manager, but I would imagine that that's what he must have agreed to prior to signing. And maybe there's minimums in contracts.
Yeah,
There's fight minimums in contracts. So I wonder what that's all about.
yeah. That'd be interesting. I would love the opportunity to be able to look at some of those promotional contracts
Oh,
and
so would I.
whatnot, Manny.
So would
especially,
I.
especially as a not only as a trainer, but a manager to a certain extent. LBA legends in the house. I see the shirt. So any boxers want to come get trained, get
That's right.
managed, get at Manny.
Yes, sir.
We got a lot of people in here saying some stuff. Shout out YRT. Shout out ThinkCap. Disney Everett says, so glad Manny is feeling better. So appreciate
Thank
that.
you so much, man.
Appreciate that, Everett. And Art Gorelli also in here. Manny, I kind of wanted to touch on the Teofimo thing again. Man, what a shame that would be if we couldn't watch Teofimo and Lomachenko fight in person. I mean, that would be such a treat.
I think if I'm not, I could be wrong, but I think today's the anniversary of the Lomachenko versus Gary Russell fight several years back. I think today's the anniversary of that fight, and I was watching highlights earlier today, and man, what Lomachenko did that night to Gary Russell was incredible. I'm telling you, this is Lomachenko is an incredible fighter. He makes it look so easy when it's not, and he's just one of those fighters, man. I'm fortunate enough to be here today, present, and to be able to enjoy and to have watched them fight numerous times on live. I've been very fortunate to, both as an amateur and as a professional. I was actually there for the Gary Russell versus Lomachenko fight at the StubHub, and it was a memorable night, man. What a performance! What a great performance on behalf of both fighters, but especially Lomachenko. Again, an incredible fighter, pound for pound the best in my opinion.
Wow. And you know what? I would definitely, at this point, I was kind of shifting back and forth, Manny, between him and Terrence Crawford, but I think based on their most recent performances, I would probably give the edge to Lomachenko. I've never seen such talent in my life, man.
Correct. And like I said, and just going back to like when he was an amateur, he had a huge fan base already. Everybody knew who Lomachenko was, even as an amateur. Multiple, amateur world champion, Olympian, and so forth, the European champion. He's just an incredible fighter.
He is, and he's built up quite a fan base here in Los Angeles too. I actually got to watch him, absolutely decimate Anthony Crolla. We were talking about this before.
Yeah.
And
right.
I mean, it was incredible how excited the fans in Los Angeles were to watch Lomachenko operate.
And that's the thing about boxing fans, you see, but hardcore boxing fans, particularly here in California, is we recognize real fighters. We recognize real when we see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Manny Pacquiao, Filipino, an incredible fighter, but we're boxing fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Lomachenko, from the Ukraine. You know what I mean? And then you know what I'm saying? And despite regardless of nationality or where we may come from, we recognize real, man.
Yeah.
So when we see talent, we know talent when we see it. We know real fighters when we see it.
That's really funny to me that you bring that up, Manny, because that kind of makes me remember a specific part of that fight and that event when I was there. I went with a friend of mine. One of them was a guy I work with. He's a white guy. Another one, he's a Filipino guy.
Right.
And we went after work, and we were sitting there and everybody was watching the fights, but it seemed everybody was really excited about Lomachenko. And I knew Lomachenko was accepted in the community when I heard a drunk guy behind me scream, "Partele la madre, Loma."
Yeah.
I said, "Oh my God."
Yeah, the Latino fans, the Mexican fans are obviously some of the biggest boxing fans in the world. Just as the British fans are,
Yeah, yeah.
they're huge, they're big fans, and they really support their fighters. So going back to what I was saying, it doesn't matter. Look at
Yeah.
Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao has a huge fan base, a huge Mexican fan base, and that they love him. They love Pacquiao because he's a great fighter. Regardless, like I said, and that's a beautiful thing about this. That's a beautiful thing about the sport is people will embrace you, people will accept you, regardless. If you can fight, you don't care where you come from. We don't care, where what your nationality, the color of your skin, or if you can fight, man, shoot, you're gonna gain fans. And like I said, we recognize Rio, particularly here in the state of California, where we got some of the biggest boxing fans in the world.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you all for being in the chat and commenting and questioning. Any questions you guys have for us, particularly for Manny, just leave it in the chat. We're gonna get to it in a few minutes, nearing the end of our discussion here. Manny, there was some pretty decent fights that went on that I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
And one interesting thing that happened was, it looked like Top Rank did a card in Mexico at the
Yeah.
Studio Azteca,
Yep.
television studio. Kind of what did you think about this past sort of week and a half of events that they've put
Oh
together?
man. Oh
you
man.
you sound disappointed.
I was. I
Oh
was disappointed. I was disappointed on the fights that took place from Mexico City, particularly the main event. I was disappointed, and I didn't like what I saw,
yeah.
and I can see why. Dana White is throwing those jabs at Bob Arum because they definitely have to do uh, a better job when it comes to matchmaking. We definitely have to see better fights. I know we're just getting back into the trend of things, in boxing, and we still got a long way to go, considering the circumstances. And I know it's nobody's fault, but we can definitely do. They can definitely do a better job. Or whoever the promoter is, I don't know if that was Top Rank with promoting the event on Saturday. I don't think it was. I think it was Sanford from Mexico.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Anyway, that's another promoter. But definitely a better job has to be done when it comes to matchmaking, especially if you're going to be showing those fights on TV.
What I thought was really strange, even though I enjoyed, I enjoyed the fact that there was boxing on, but what I thought was strange was, I don't know if you noticed that big screen. I mean, it's hard not to notice it. That big screen TV in the back where they had like
Oh,
random
man.
family members
Oh,
clapping
man.
for these guys.
Yeah, I'm telling you. That was. What was that all about? Man,
I said to
what was that
myself,
all about?
"What the heck is this? If I'm a boxer in the ring fighting and I see my grandmother all of a sudden pop onto the screen, I'm gonna
Yeah.
freak out, man."
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. I don't know what they were thinking, to be quite honest with you. Like I said, um, obviously that had nothing to do with boxing, but the telecast, the TV Azteca, whoever it was that was televising the event, man, that was something else, man. That was not something that you're accustomed to seeing on ESPN. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it wasn't good. It wasn't good. Let's be honest.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Let's
yeah.
be honest. I can't. Let's keep it real, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
no.
and it wasn't good, and I'm sure most people will probably agree with that.
And I love that you're able to do this with me. I always kind of tiptoe around some of these topics a little bit because I don't want you to get your reputation messed with if you ever say anything about any of these promotions. I know you work with all the promotions,
Yeah.
but I appreciate you being just being candid all the time, Manny. I really like
Yeah,
that.
well, sometimes you try to keep it real, and some of these like look Joshua Greer, for example,
Yeah,
uh, he lost.
yeah,
The
yeah,
the Kaminsky kid lost as well. That was unexpected.
yeah.
They both came in on the A side, and it's boxing. Anything can happen. Anything can happen, and both of these guys were expected to win, and they both took a loss. They both took an L. And that's obviously this isn't the end of their careers, particularly with Greer being the more experienced fighter of the two, and top rated fighter. Can fight for a world title at any given moment. All it is he's gonna have to make adjustments, go back to the drawing board, like bigger and stronger. But know that it isn't the end of your career. It isn't the end of the line.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that happens in boxing. We've been talking about how fighters are not willing to take a chance. They want to play it safe, but I honestly don't think that it's a and then in career defeat. All he's got to do is go back to the gym, go back to the drawing board, come back bigger and stronger, and I'm sure he'll get his opportunity to fight for a world title in the near future.
Right, right. Well, I mean, even though he didn't look, unbeatable or anything like that, I mean, I was kind of impressed with Magic Mike Plania's,
Right,
explosiveness,
right.
his hand speed. I mean, I guess I didn't know enough about him. He really surprised me.
None of us did. None of us did. But see, that's the beautiful thing about this sport, and that it shines a light on another fighter now.
Yeah,
You know, everybody knew about Greer. No, nobody knew about this other kid. But now, guess what? Have a star in the making. Who knows? You
yeah,
know what I mean? Where we might get to see a rematch. We want to see this kid fight again. It's a win-win situation, and it's good for the sport.
and he's a young man out of the same city as Manny Pacquiao, which we brought up
There
a
you
little
go. A lot of
earlier.
great Filipino fighters. There's a lot of great, strong, solid, warriors, big, hard fighters coming out of the Philippines, man, that they're waiting for an opportunity. They will do anything to have an opportunity such as this one to be on the big stage and to show their talent and to show the world that they can fight and that they're looking, to provide for their families. They're looking for an opportunity to be able to take care of their families. Because at the end of the day, this is why fighters fight. Fighters fight for family, man. Fighters fight to be able to provide for their loved ones.
Yeah, yeah, no, I was very happy for him. I noticed afterwards they did a post-fight interview. He couldn't even speak a lick of English, but man, he was so happy to be there,
And who does that remind you of?
Man,
Reminds you of, who that reminds me of? Reminds me of Manny Pacquiao, man.
right, right, right.
The same way this kid got his opportunity, that's the same way it came to Manny Pacquiao. You look at his story and read about his story and learn about his story, how he took a fight. I believe he took a fight with a 2 week notice, and he fought for the world title. Met Waller from South Africa. Back in the day, this guy was a beast, and Manny Pacquiao came out of nowhere. Nobody knew who Manny Pacquiao was, but he
Right.
got his opportunity, and he defeated Waller for the IBF, if I'm not mistaken, IBF super bantamweight title. And then all of a sudden, we had a world, a superstar in the making,
Yeah.
and Manny
Yeah.
Pacquiao. Every fighter is one fight away from the big time.
I love that. I love that real talk from a guy that's, been in the game, man, for as long as you've been alive, basically, huh, man?
Hey, come on, man! Look at Andy. Look at
Yeah.
Andy Ruiz with Anthony Joshua. I mean, I can't give you a better example than that.
Right, right,
You
right.
know?
Right, no, I absolutely. And that Plania fight, it was kind of interesting to me, Manny. He seemed to be doing well in the beginning. He dropped Greer a couple times. I mean, one thing I appreciated about Greer was he didn't seem to mentally check out or give up at any point in the
He's
fight,
a beast,
despite,
man.
yeah.
Anybody that knows Greer, anybody that's been following his career, he's never been in a bad fight, man. He's always in a good, exciting fight. So I tip my head off to Greer, man. He's a good friend of mine. You know, been at the gym plenty of time to spar, just come and spar with some of my guys, including Negrete, Oscar Negrete, and these are gym wars, man.
Yeah.
Between Greer and you got to see Greer and Negrete in the gym is a sight to see, man. And you get it for free. You get it every time they spar, they go at it, and they talk so much shit. Negrete finally met his match.
Wow. Wow.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! He finally met his match. He finally encountered someone that talked just as much shit as he does in the ring.
So
And,
Negrete talks a lot of trash when he's in
oh my
there.
goodness! Ooh, man, he's the biggest shit talker, man.
What's some of the stuff he says? I'd be interested to hear.
Yeah, he's an experienced fighter. He can definitely get under your skin. He'll hit you before the bell, after the bell, low blows. He'll do every dirty trick in the book.
Yeah.
There in the gym, that is. But he loves it. He's very passionate about boxing, and he loves to teach. Believe it or not, because while he's doing that, he's actually teaching the less experienced fighter to not allow someone such as him to get under your skin,
Right.
and to learn to control the situation and have control of yourself, and not again allow someone like Negrete to get the better of you.
And so, you know what? We were talking about Greer. I mentioned that he didn't at any point in the fight check out mentally, and he kind of adjusted, Manny. And I felt like in the later part of the fight, I mean, he started coming on. It wasn't enough to win, but I think if he would have maybe began the fight with that strategy, assuming his cardio and everything else held up, there may have been a different result. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what I'm thinking though is that considering the circumstances with this whole coronavirus and people not being able to train and work out the way we would like, it's kind of hard to come in 100%. I mean, and that's I'm not using that as an excuse for anybody, but it's really difficult to know that you can't spar. You can't spar with the liberty that you once had. You can't train with the freedom that you were once able to train and work out with, because you have to be extra careful. You have to be extra safe. You have to take a lot of different precautions to be safe, that do not allow you to work out and train to the best of your ability, considering the circumstances. Does that make sense?
yeah, no, absolutely. But that would apply to both guys, I'm assuming.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely, and it does apply, but sometimes it applies to more person that doesn't either.
right,
Because we really don't know what's going on.
right.
Like I said, it's not I don't know what happened to Greer's training camp. I don't know if anything went wrong or not, but I can only assume that, considering the situation, it must have not been the perfect camp.
For sure. It's another factor to consider, for sure.
It's another either or, one guy or the other. I don't think anybody's had the perfect camp. I don't think any fighter that we've been seeing has had the perfect sparring partners or the perfect camp, because you can't.
Yeah.
Promoters, they put up an event, they put up a fight, they put up a fight date, and they make the calls to the different fighters and match make. But it's up to the promoters are not in the gym.
Right.
They're not visually there. They're not in the gym to make they're not making themselves responsible to make sure that both camps or all camps and on the card, or all fighters on the card, have a perfect camp. You know,
Right,
they're
right.
doing they're promoting. It's up to the fighters and their respective teams to make sure that they have that they do their best to have good camps.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I do what I can for the guys, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I there's no way I can keep track of 30
Correct.
guys if we have like a 15 fight card on Fighters Rep like we did last time, right? I mean, what can I
Possible.
do? What can I do to make sure everybody has a perfect camp? Nothing. And I do agree that this virus is just another factor and a factor that nobody's ever even dealt with.
Yep. And then we see more and more fights being canceled because of the virus, and it's not going to stop. Unfortunately, it's not going to stop, and I pray to God that there is that they do find a cure for this thing, and that things are able to get back to normal for the sake of everyone, and not just boxing, but around the world, man. We're all struggling with this thing, and I feel for a lot of people out there that are going through this, with their family members and so forth and so on. And it's not easy, but if we stand together, if we pray together, I'm sure that you know God's listening, and I'm sure that we'll be able to find a cure for this thing soon.
I hope so, Manny. Another thing I wanted to ask you about Plania in particular, because I was kind of watching the way he was fighting. It was fascinating
Yeah.
to me. You know, he
Uh-huh.
was really picking his shots. His pace was very measured. You know, he didn't have a lot of volume at all. It was just waiting for the right shots.
A perfect punch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do
Yeah.
you think a style like that is a smart style? Would you try to
Yeah.
get him to have more volume in his work? I mean, what do you think of his overall style?
Yeah, that's his style. There's certain things you can't change, certain things you can't do nothing about. I've been there with certain fighters that you expect more from them, and you can't get it because this is who they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's his style. But
And
I see where you're coming from now.
and what did you think about, you mentioned the card in Mexico. I mean, what did you you were kind of disappointed in the main event in particular. I mean, tell me a little bit about that, cuz honestly, besides Navarrete, I was not really familiar with the other guys. I wasn't
That's
very
correct.
familiar
No,
with
I
them.
wasn't familiar with any of the fighters, but that doesn't, like I said, it's all about matchmaking.
Yeah.
Just because we're not familiar with the fighters, we don't have to be familiar with the fighters. We can become familiar with fighters if we see good fights. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case. Anyway, Navarrete is a fighter that I admire, a fighter that I believe he's a top super bantamweight fighter in the world. For me, in my opinion, he's the number one guy. He's the one to beat at 122. And I just feel that they could have done a little better job finding him a better quality opponent. We understand that he wasn't fighting for a world title. We understand that this was a tune-up fight, but it didn't deserve that fight. This fight did not deserve to be a main event.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
You know,
I
what's your opinion?
well, I mean, I agree. I thought I especially thought the opponent kind of didn't really belong in there with him. I felt like didn't Navarrete come in a little bit bigger than he usually
Yeah,
is?
he's it was not a title fight, so you can, if you're not fighting for a world title, you can fight. He's 101. He's 122 pounds, which is a super bantamweight. He
Right,
can come in at 140 if he wants to. He's
right,
not fighting for the title.
right. And that's part of the reason I'm not really a huge fan of like catch weights and stuff like that myself, because it never really advances a guy's career too much.
Well, like I said, he's a world champion already. So this was a tune-up fight, and he could have just pretty much came in at whatever fight he wanted to because his title wasn't on the line. But again, I mean, if you're gonna do that, then I don't know. With all due respect, put somebody else in. Put a more competitive fight in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not you know what I'm saying, but not not this fight, because they're giving us this because okay, we're gonna give you this because either take it or leave it because there's nothing else to watch see on TV anyway.
See, that's
You know?
and that's the huge difference, Manny, for me between the UFC, MMA and boxing is MMA goes out of its way, I think, to really put together a nice card from top to bottom. But boxing, they tend to be top heavy with maybe the main event and the co-main event being exciting, but then you got a bunch of I don't know. Again, I wasn't familiar with any of those guys. The only positive takeaway I had from it was there was a pretty awesome knockout from a kid named, I believe it was Sergio Sanchez or something like
And that
that.
uppercut, yeah.
I thought that was a pretty great knockout, but I don't
I'll tell
know.
I'll tell you what though. Looking ahead, tomorrow night, Joshua Franco versus Maloney, one of the Maloney brothers from Australia for the world title. That's gonna be a hell of a fight, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Tomorrow, boxing will vindicate themselves, and Bob Arum, top rank, and this will be a hell of a fight. I'm telling you, don't miss it. Tomorrow night, we fought Franco with Oscar Negrete once again. We fought him 3 times, and all 3 fights were wars.
Yeah.
And I expect to see the same thing tomorrow night with Franco, young kid out of Texas. He's gonna go out there, first opportunity to be fighting for a world title. He's fighting under the Robert Garcia banner, and he's gonna do everything he can. I'm sure he's ready, and I'm sure he's gonna go out there and he's gonna give everybody a hell of a fight. And may the best man win. The other kid, Maloney, I know him personally as well. Both of the brothers, good kids out of Australia. But I know for a fact that this is going to be a hell of a fight.
Well, what can you tell me about the Maloney brothers, Manny?
Well, they're good. They're both good fighters out of Australia. I believe they're both the two best fighters coming out of Australia, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they're good. They're one fights at 115, the other one fights at 118. We were scheduled to fight. Oscar Negrete was scheduled to fight one of the brothers on the 25th. Actually, this week, another fight that got canceled on me, unfortunately, due to a medical issue that Negrete is going through. But unfortunately, anyway, that got canceled. But the Maloney brothers are good, well experienced amateur. They had good amateur careers and now as pros. And one of the Maloney brothers, he's a world champion at the WBA 115-pound world champion Superfly. And Joshua Franco is getting an opportunity to fight for that world title. So we have probably our first boxing title fight during the coronavirus pandemic.
Well, I love it, and hopefully we'll have many more. And I'll definitely I look forward to it. And I look forward to chatting about it with you afterwards.
Guarantee you, next Monday, we'll be talking about this fight.
For sure, for sure. Do you have a pick for it? Do you think anybody's gonna win?
You know what? I'm gonna be pulling. I'm gonna be pulling for Franco, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be pulling for Franco because after those 3 fights with Negrete, you and obviously with my good friend Robert Garcia, you build a bond. You build something, man. So many wars between one another. It's just you build that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain how.
No, for sure. I mean, I totally understand. I totally understand. I mean, even after our fights or fights in MMA, I mean, guys, they hug it out. They go have a beer. They go have some food together. You know what I mean?
So I believe that the kid is definitely young, hungry, experienced, and that's again going back. He's had a loss, and he had 2 draws with Negrete. He beat Negrete once, and he got 2 draws, but previously he had a loss, got stopped as a matter of fact. But those fights, especially the fights with Negrete, I believe, in my opinion, he learned so much from those fights that those fights are going to help him get over the hump tomorrow night, and he will become a world champion.
Wow. I love it.
Telling you, man, you learn more from your defeats than you do from your wins.
Yeah.
You definitely learn more from your defeats than you do from your from your victories, man. And I believe that those fights, that loss, those draws, definitely were a great learning experience for Franco.
For sure. Well, I mean, big shout out. I look forward to that fight. Big shout out to everybody in the chat. We're going to get to some of these questions now, Manny. Thank you guys, for the questions. Please subscribe to the channel. Join us every Monday at 7 p.m. for Keeping It Clean with Manny Robles. We also put up content, Wednesdays, and we're going to have a new interview every Friday, Manny, with people in the fight game. So definitely something for, the audience to tune into and enjoy. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification icon below. And Manny, I think if you tell them to subscribe, they'll listen to you before they listen to me, brother.
Subscribe to the channel, guys. Come on, join us, man. Let your friends know, let grandma know, let mama know, everybody in the boxing fans out there, join us, man.
There
Come on,
you
we
go.
Need you. We need you to support us.
There you go. So Kevin from Chicago asked, are we taking calls? No, we're not taking calls. Kevin, please just, leave your question in the chat. Marco asked, did I buy a new camera? No, Marco, this is my camera. I know the picture's looking clear, you're saying, but I just zoomed it in. Paco Imero says Dana White is going to be on Al Heyman's payroll by the end of the week, Manny. I don't know about that, wow, brother. I don't know about that.
I don't know about that one either, man. I don't know. We need promoters in boxing. We need promoters in the UFC, but we need them because it gives more fighters an opportunity to go out there and fight. How many fighters do you not know as a promoter that don't have opportunities? That are not given an opportunity. You know what I mean? Because they're dying. Like I said, we're talking about fighters that are looking for opportunities, and they'll fight anybody, anywhere, any place. All they need is a chance. All they need is an opportunity. So we need promoters we need more promoters. We need promoters like Dana White. We need promoters like Top Rank. And, I see this as a positive thing because now it becomes more competitive. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now it makes the other guy want to do better. That's all that is.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with that. And if it was up to me, man, I'd put on a fight every couple weeks if I could.
That's right. I know you could. I know you would.
But not easy. It's not easy, brother.
Absolutely not. That's why. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Mike Colleen, Conscious Power, says, what's up? What's up, Mike? Appreciate you joining us, my man. Fight Life Nation says, Dana White's product is much more exciting right now, but a big boxing event will always draw more eyes. What do you think about that one, man?
Like I said, I'm not very familiar with the UFC and how it works. They stay busy. They have a lot of shows, but my boxing, that's my sport, man. Boxing, we could sit here and talk about so many great fights that are yet to be made. That could be very, very exciting for the sport of boxing, definitely.
For sure. Kevin from Chicago says, Bobby Arum is pissed David Kaminsky lost.
Yeah, like I said, it was a great fight. I'm sure the kid's going to learn a whole lot from the fight itself. And it's not the end of the world, man. It never is. It's not the end of the world. Life goes on. Boxing goes on. His career will be able to he'll be able to move forward with his career and see it as a learning experience.
I agree with that. I hope that is what happens. Paco Imero X3 says Ryan Garcia is going to be relegated to selling only fan pictures if he ever faces real competition. Ouch.
That has yet to be seen.
Ouch.
He can fight, man. Then let me tell you, the kid can fight. I've seen this kid hurt people in the boxing gym in sparring.
Yeah.
Put fighters on their ass, man. And he can fight, man. The kid can fight. Is he cocky? Yeah, a little bit, But I mean, can he fight? I believe so. I believe he can.
I agree. I mean, even though he's been, getting kind of tomato cans put in front of him for the most part, he has been.
Let me tell you something. Let me stop you right there, George. Let me stop you right there.
Go ahead.
Okay?
Go ahead, man.
You know, let me tell you, this is what my dad used to tell me. Okay? Okay, you fight tomato cans, you make them look like tomato cans.
Right,
Because
right,
that's what they're
right.
there for. You
Right,
understand?
right.
And he's getting the job done. He's knocking these guys out in the first round. He's
Yeah.
doing his job. The problem would be if a tomato can came in and gave you a run for your money and made you look bad and took you all the way to a decision. Then we'd be talking, hey, maybe this guy isn't that good, but he's getting the job done.
Right,
Whatever you're
right.
putting in front of him, he's eliminating his opponents. He's knocking them out. So I gotta give him. You gotta give him credit where credit is due.
No, 100%. That's why I was kind of following up with he's fighting tomato cans, but he is crushing the cans in
Yeah, there you go.
one
There
or two.
you go, George. He's fighting tomato can, but he's crushing the can.
Yup, and he's he's sending them to the recycling plant in 1 or 2
That's
rounds.
it.
So he's
Getting
doing what
the
he
job
has
done.
to do.
Okay.
Davey L says Monday night with Manny. That's right. Tell your friends, tell your family, let them know we do this every Monday night with the legend, Manny Robles. Disney Everett says good show. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that, Disney. Art Gorelli says from day one when Bob Arum said investing in the UFC is a terrible move, to Dana White, he's always trying to one-up Dana, then now saying there's going to be fans. I grew up with Dana and text with him every day. Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I would love to meet Dana White. You know what? I my understanding is he's looking into crossing over into boxing.
Oh yeah.
He's looking to promote in boxing.
Yeah, he's
That'd
been
be
talking.
cool, man. So we need promoters, man.
Yeah.
We need promoters like Dana White in boxing. I mean, obviously, Bob Arum is who I consider one of the best promoters in boxing, and they know how to build superstars. Look at what they did, Oscar de la Hoya. Look at Floyd Mayweather. Look at Manny Pacquiao. Muhammad Ali.
Lomachenko.
Lomachenko. Come on, man. This is top rank. Terrence Crawford. Teofimo Lopez. These are all top rank fighters.
Yeah.
Shakur Stevenson. They know how to pick their talent and they know how to develop talent. So ain't nobody can come here and say that they've done a terrible job or that they've wrong by boxers. That's a lie, man. Because we wouldn't have Oscar de la Hoya if it wasn't for top rank. Look at Oscar Golden Boy. Right. We wouldn't have the money team and Floyd Mayweather if it wasn't for top rank. Come on,
right. No, it's
they are who they are.
Hey, if you've been in the game for over 80 years, you must be doing something right. You know what I mean?
You must be doing something right. Where's Don King? Where's Don King, my friend?
That's true. That's true.
Where's Don King now, right? And look at Bob. He's still around. He's still doing his thing, and he's still building superstars.
For sure. Disney in here, he's the one that said, so glad Manny is feeling better.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Disney. Art Gorelli says,
I got my tequila right here. It's water, guys. It's water.
Art Gorelli says, I can't say on here what Dana really feels about Arum. LMAO. Yeah, I mean, he definitely doesn't like him, that's for sure. And Dana White doesn't really pull any punches, man. He kind of tells it like it is, brother.
Yeah. Who's that?
Dana White.
Oh, yeah, he does, doesn't he?
I was
reading some of his comments.
Yeah, he just says what's on his mind. And you're right. He's been talking about going into boxing for a very long time.
That'd be awesome, man. That'd be awesome. If that happens, that'd be great. Be great for the sport,
Yeah.
Like I said, we need promoters like Dana White. And if he's doing a great job in the UFC, I'm sure he'll do a great job in boxing as well.
I think so too, especially if we can get, the sort of even matchups and really nice undercards.
Exactly. What we need are people that care about athletes.
Yeah.
We need people that genuinely care about athletes, man. Genuinely care about the human beings and the boxers and like I said, boxers fight for family, man. They fight for pride. They fight for country. They fight for their families to make that be given the opportunity for their families to live a better quality of life.
For sure. And that's why I encourage everyone, get your Fighters Rep shirt in the link below, donate.
Right.
We're going to try to get some LBA Legends shirts in the
Oh,
links below,
they're
too.
coming, guys. They're coming.
So we can support, Manny's company, managing fighters and guiding them, and also, anything you guys donate to this channel going to helping me promote these young warriors I got going on here in Southern California as well. Paco Romero says the next guy is Virgil Ortiz. What do you think about that guy,
Oh, man, Virgil Ortiz is a beast. He's a beast, man.
Yeah, man.
And look, let's go back to what we were talking about earlier. Okay, what did I tell you about promoters? They said, okay, well, what was it? Because they're both with Golden Boy, Ryan Garcia and Virgil. So Ryan turns around and says, well, I'm not fighting for this kind of money. And what did Golden Boy do? They turn around and they say, okay, well, we're gonna move on to the next guy.
Right.
And who's the next guy? Virgil Ortiz.
Virgil Ortiz.
So if you don't want to fight, hey, listen, we're moving on to the next guy. We're not waiting for anybody. We're not waiting for nobody. That's the promoters, man.
Yep.
Promoters are out there looking for the next superstar, and that could be Virgil. Without a doubt, that could be Virgil.
You know what?
And guess what? And if Virgil becomes a mega superstar, everybody's gonna forget about Ryan, man.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. I mean, that's boxing. People forget about you very, very quick if you do not stay in the eye of the beholder. If you're not busy,
right.
if you're not fighting, people forget about you, man.
Right. Out of sight, out of mind, and
out of sight, out of mind.
And I do think Virgil Ortiz is a beast, man. That guy's a beast, bro.
All wins, all knockouts, and he's quiet, and he's humble, and he doesn't say a whole lot, but anything he's got to say, he says it in the ring.
Yep, he's a killer. Disney Everett says, "What is Manny's favorite drink?"
My favorite drink is, oh man, I don't know. Yeah, I don't drink a whole lot of alcohol. I drink beer, so a good beer, I love my beer. I like my beer, but not. I don't drink a.
What's a good beer? What's a good beer for Manny Robles?
What's a good beer? Let me see. I like. I don't know. I like Modelos. I like Pacificos. I like that Mexican beer. Corona.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm an easygoing guy. I'm easy. I'm easy.
Modelo.
I'll take a shot of tequila, every now and then, but that's as far as I'll go.
I'll agree with you that Modelo is my favorite beer, Manny. I must say, I love Modelo, bro.
What I do enjoy is being around good friends and family, and I can, a beer when it comes to beer and that type of stuff. It really it becomes. It doesn't become as important now. Obviously, I'll be hanging out with family, good carne asada, good food, good friends and family. Then I'll have a beer, yes. But what's most important is being around good friends and family.
And you can cook, Manny. You can cook.
I can make a good ceviche.
I love it.
Believe me, hey, listen. If things continue to be going the way they are, I'll be selling ceviche out of the trunk of my car real soon.
Oh my goodness. Never that, Manny. Never that. YRT, thank you for joining. And you too, Paco Imero. You guys are new to the channel, so I appreciate you guys being here. Art Gorelli as well. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Join us every Monday. YRT says 200,000 isn't worth the possible loss. If Ryan loses, he loses his status as one of the top contenders. Not worth it. This is YRT's opinion here.
Yeah, well, that's his opinion. It's his opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, look. So what's it gonna take to get him to fight now? Then is it gonna take $1 million for them? Then what's he gonna ask for when he fights for a world title?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. These contracts are signed for a reason. You made an agreement with it. This is my opinion now. I don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
and this doesn't particularly have to do anything to do with Ryan. And, as a fighter, when you sign a contract, this is what you sign for.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no, oh no, I don't like what I signed. Oh, I disagree. Let's go back and sign another one. No bullshit. It doesn't happen that way. Once you sign a contract, that's it.
Yeah.
Once you make an agreement, that's it. This is what you agreed on.
Yeah, and I think guys need to be really, really careful and really smart about turning down that kind of money in a situation like this, Manny. I think that's
Yeah.
wild, man. I mean, if somebody told me $200,000 to go fight, I'm fighting.
Not a title fight, George. Not a title fight. It's
Yeah,
not
man.
a title. I'm sure it'll be a somewhat of a decent fighter. It has to be if you're getting paid that kind of money.
Yeah.
But it's not. You're not fighting Lomachenko. You're not fighting Teofimo. You're not fighting Linares. You're not fighting any of those guys. So, you know,
Yeah, and YRT is in here. He's kind of going back and forth with Paco Imero, who says apparently his social media stardom doesn't translate to legal tender because he can't fill a stadium unless he's on a Canelo undercard. I mean, so
yeah.
we also got to see what kind of numbers he pulls if he's the main attraction, I guess.
Yeah,
You know?
I believe you pull good numbers. I believe
Yeah.
he was the main event at the. I wasn't there, but I believe he pulled some pretty good numbers at the StubHub.
Yeah.
Right, I believe he was the main event when he knocked the guy out in the first round. His
I
last
believe
opponent.
so. Was it Romero Duno or something like that?
No,
Or
no, Romero Duno was the undercut of Canelo versus the Crusher,
so not
right, last year.
Fonseca then?
Yeah, it must have been Fonseca. Correct, it must have been Fonseca. And I don't like I said I believe the fight. See that's good promoting, man. The fight was on Valentine's Day, on February the 14th. So you get all the little girls to come out and support Ryan, and that's good for boxing because it brings in new fans.
Yeah,
It brings in
yeah.
new faces. Brings in new faces. All the groupies and stuff. Coming over to see him or whatever. I don't know. I guess it helps.
For sure, and it's also a good reason for maybe a lady to buy a ticket for her man, like as a
There you go.
Valentine's
There you
gift.
go.
You know?
Hey, baby. Valentine's Day. Take you to go see Ryan.
Let's get romantic and go watch some boxing, Poppy. There we go. Let's go.
There you go.
Paco wants to know, Manny, will Virgil Ortiz be the next pay-per-view star, considering he doesn't flinch from anybody and doesn't seem too worried about losing a fight if he's able to put on a show?
Yeah, he gets it done, man. He definitely gets it done. I like this kid, Virgil Ortiz. I like him a lot. He's definitely the real deal. And like we've been talking about every opponent that they put in front of him, he's demolished, man. He's destroyed. He's knocked out everybody that he's faced. So, he seems pretty real to me.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's at the 147-pound weight category. You got Errol Spence. You got Terrence Crawford. You got Manny Pacquiao. You got Keith Thurman. You got all these monsters at 147. So we'll have to wait and see. But he's a young fighter. He's an up and coming fighter, and you don't want to rush him. But he's definitely very, very close to getting a shot at a world title.
I like him, man. He's
I
very
like him too.
he's very explosive, and he's got some serious fast twitch on him, man.
Mm-hmm. For the conventional boxing fan, he's what we like to see. Because he's real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. He's not a product of. I'm not knocking on Ryan because, like I said, I believe Ryan is a good fighter.
Yeah,
But he's not a product of social media. He handles himself differently.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally.
You know,
He's
he-
like a
you know.
throwback fighter. He's just a fighter.
Yeah,
He's just a fighter.
exactly. He's a throwback fighter. He's an old school type of fighter. where he does his talk, he does all his talking in the ring, and he's just quiet, goes about his own way, and I respect that from him. But I also respect Ryan because he's good for boxing.
Yeah, yeah.
Ryan is good for boxing. He isn't bad for boxing. He's good. He's and in some ways he's the type of fighter people love to hate.
Yeah.
Why? Because you all know your girls like Ryan Garcia.
The pretty boy. He's the pretty boy.
You all know your girls like the same way they did Oscar De La Hoya at one time.
Yeah.
Everybody. Oh man, I remember back in the day when, girls would go crazy over Oscar, and that's Ryan now. Is that bad for boxing? No.
No, that's
it
good.
isn't bad for boxing. Remember Macho Camacho, man. Remember Maromero Paez and those type of fighters. The fighters now are different, but they're showmen.
Yeah.
And remember, at the end of the day, Ryan Garcia is an entertainer. He's entertaining us. He's entertaining the crowd, obviously with his performances as a boxer, but also what he's doing outside the ring. All the extracurricular activities with social media and whatnot. People are into that type of stuff nowadays. I guess it's good. It's good for boxing. If it's good for the sport, then great.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. You know how I feel about social media with FightersRep, Manny. I'm always, every day we're posting stuff on there, and I do think it's fantastic for the sport. And I agree with you. Ryan Garcia, with his popularity, is just going to bring more eyes and new eyes to the sport.
More money, more fans, more attention to the sport. That's what we need. We need attention. We need positive. Positive, negative. My guy gets to say, but this was in Spanish though. So bad publicity. Well, in English actually.
Yeah.
Bad publicity is better than no publicity.
For sure. And that's
bad publicity is better than no publicity.
And that's kind of what I was thinking when we were mentioning the whole, Dana White and Bob Arum thing. I mean, even though it's kind of ugly, it is, whether we like it or not, bringing some sort of attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the sport. Let's see here. Davey L. Manny says, Manny, what do you think of Fight Camp with Eddie Hearn?
Fight Camp with Eddie Hearn. I haven't checked that out, though. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it, no.
I guess it's, the Matchroom version of, the UFC's Apex, where they have, like, their own little, spot in Matchroom headquarters or something. Where they're gonna
really? Yeah, I've heard about it, like I said. I think that's interesting. I like to see that. I mean, like I said, and look, in the UK, boxing is big. It's huge because it's boxing and football or soccer.
Yeah.
That's all. And yet I think they got rugby but I think it's between both boxing and soccer that are the two biggest sports in the UK.
Yep.
Where it's not as competitive as it is here in the United States. Here in the U.S., man, I mean, what don't we have? Right. We're spoiled. We're spoiled.
Right,
so
right.
We demand great fights. We demand great UFC matchups and great boxing matchups because we're spoiled, man. This is America, man. We want to see the best fight the best.
And I don't only demand that, Manny, but I also demand a loaded nachos, a hot dog, and a modelo. With my sports.
You know what I'm doing? You know what I'm doing after the show?
Oh man, me too. And if you guys haven't seen Manny's ceviche, definitely go on his Instagram and see what he's throwing down. I'm getting hungry thinking about it. Paco says, Manny, do you think Eddie Hearn will steal Canelo from De La Hoya?
Impossible. Imposible. Canelo is not going anywhere. I can guarantee you that. Canelo is... He's I don't know, but he's not going anywhere, man.
Yeah.
He's not. He's... And I know there's a lot of... issues there. I know we all know in boxing, we all know that there, Canelo has said a lot of negative things about Golden Boy and Oscar and whatnot. And we all know this. We've all seen it. We've all heard it. So it's nothing. I'm not saying anything nobody doesn't know. But that doesn't mean Canelo can just get up and leave. If that was the case, he would have left a long time ago. He ain't
Right,
going home.
right, right. Too much.
Neither is Ryan Garcia.
Yeah, especially now after he just, renegotiated
Yeah.
that contract you were
We all
talking
know that
about.
he just renegotiated the contract. We all know that he just signed again to Golden Boy. That's what I'm saying. I mean, so what do you mean you're not fighting for 200,000? This is what you must have agreed.
Right,
I mean,
right.
you signed again,
We'll
and
see.
if
We'll
that's not the
see.
and
We'll
if
see.
that's not the case, then who's working for you?
Right, right. I'd be
You know?
interested to see the terms of that contract. Officer Doofy says, "Saludos, saludos, Officer Doofy. Thank you for joining us, brother."
Look,
Last one says, "Manny, how are you feeling now?"
I'm feeling fantastic, man. I'm feeling great. I was a little bit under the weather, but God is good, man. I've been taking care of myself. I've been definitely taking a whole lot of supplements, vitamins, and so forth and so on. Like I said, man, this coronavirus thing is out there. This coronavirus thing is real. Please take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. Take care of one another. Be safe. Be clean, extra clean, if you will, and just be considerate of other people. If it isn't for you, wear a mask. If it isn't for you, then think about the person next to you. Think about your family. Think about your grandpa, your grandma, your parents, your kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's part of the reason I haven't been doing anything is because I have a couple of viejitos that are always coming by and hanging out with my kids, my in-laws, and I don't want anyone to get sick. So listen to what Manny's saying. Last one is in here. He says, "Manny, how much damage do you think Usyk can cause in the heavyweight division, if any?"
Jeez, a lot of damage. A lot. Usyk is a badass fighter, man. I've been watching this kid again, just like Lomachenko. The Ukrainian. Let me tell you something about the Ukrainian national team. Back prior to, I want to go back to 2009 when it all started. 2008 with Lomachenko and his father. That's a sign of a great coach right there. Lomachenko, Anatoly.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, what he did in 2011 at the World Championships, what he did in 2012 at the Olympic Games was incredible. That was probably one of the best boxing countries, boxing teams as a whole, uh, uh, that I've ever seen, man. I mean, these guys were monsters. These guys would go through, and Usyk was part of that team,
Yeah.
and they were also part of the World Series of Boxing, just like Lomachenko. So he gained a great deal of experience as a semi-professional fighter in the WSB in the World Series of Boxing, and eventually became the cruiserweight champion of the world, and now he's someone to reckon with at the heavyweight division, and he's a southpaw, and he's got experience, and he can fight, and he can punch. He's a total package, man, and I believe that he can definitely become a world champion in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, he's a monster. I would agree with everything you're saying there, Manny. YRT says, "Manny, what do you think about aging fighters like Tyson and Hopkins coming back to do exhibition fights?"
Some fighters are better with I don't know. I don't know. If you're retired, stay retired.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you're retired, man, stay retired. If you want to come back and do an exhibition match, that's fine. For all intended purposes, I don't know whatever those purposes are. You want to make money, or do it for a nonprofit or whatever. But if you're doing it for fun, I guess it's okay. But if you're retired, stay retired, man. Especially at that age, you can't play boxing.
Yeah, this is a young man sport for sure,
That's
not
right.
to be messed with. Hawker Mustang is in here. He says, "Good stuff, guys." He says Deontay Wilder was entertaining with his twerking. That's pretty funny, Hawker
I saw that.
Mustang.
Yeah, I saw that.
Um,
That's pretty
YR,
good.
YRT, and I think this is the last one, Manny. We've been on an hour and 20 minutes now. He says, Manny,
What?
yeah, do you believe
Let's
that?
go for 2 hours, baby.
We're gonna starve to death if we do that. He says, YRT says, Manny, can you tell us about your experience in Saudi Arabia? Not necessarily the fight, but more the atmosphere and fan base difference considering Saudi is trying to raise the boxing profile there.
Definitely different. Definitely different. I was even offered a job recently to come and work for the Saudi Arabian Boxing Federation or some, something like that. I
Wow.
was I was offered I was offered a position to come and work out there, and definitely different from anything I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, people are good people. They're nice people, great people, but it's, man, we live in the best country in the world, man. Despite of everything that, unfortunately, everything that we're seeing, but it's necessary. Everything that's happening today with politics and the whole Black Lives Matter movement, it's definitely something that I that I stand for, that I believe in, and it's necessary because we gotta find change, man. We gotta fight for that. But I also believe that we live in the best country in the world. We have some of the best people, like I said, even in boxing. We're real, recognized, real. That it doesn't matter. Not what better example, what can I give you than that? That to me, as a Mexican American, I don't care where you're from, man. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what country, or the color of your skin or what, man. If you can fight, you got a fan right here, man. You got
Yeah,
a fan right
yeah,
here. If you
yeah.
can fight, look, we talk about the diversity in boxing with Lomachenko and Usyk being from the Ukraine. We were never to talk about fighters like this 10 years ago, right?
Right, right, right.
We were never to talk about fighters from the Ukraine and great fighters such as these from Manny Pacquiao from the Philippines. There wasn't, there wasn't it wasn't like that in boxing. It really wasn't. Even fighters from the UK nowadays that they're making such a strong presence in America. I mean, it wasn't. And I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see that as people we can come together. That boxing can bring us together. That the UFC can bring us together, and unite us as a whole.
I agree, man. That's what this whole combat sports thing is about for me as well, Manny. And I love your perspective on that, and I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I kind of, I sound like like a yes man, but I agree with
Yeah,
everything you just said, my man.
yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. Since we're on the topic of Saudi Arabia, though, I mean, Manny, I had to ask you, who's your favorite Arab? Come on, come on.
My favorite. You are.
Yes, yes, I knew I would get that. I knew I would
You
get
are.
that. I knew I would get. But anyway, knuckleheads, hey, I appreciate you guys so much tuning in with me and Manny on the Keep It Clean podcast. This was episode 5, Manny. This is our longest episode ever, an hour and 23 minutes.
Hey, listen, I'm happy to be back because last week was not my week. Last Monday, I apologize to everyone. I was out of it. I was
Yeah.
out of it, but I knew I had to do the show. You know, the show must go on. The show must continue. So, I out of respect for you, George, and I had to bite down and do the best I could to do the show, man. And listen, let's keep it clean. This is everybody. We're all entitled to our opinions. Some of the stuff I said today, some people may not agree with. I respect all fighters, man. I respect all fighters because, man, believe me, I know what it is to get inside that ring and to risk your life and to lay everything on the line for like I said, for family, for country, for pride. For there's so many different things that people fight for. But at the end of the day, boxing is no joke, man. It ain't no game. So I salute and respect every fighter out there.
Thank you, Manny. Thank you all for joining us. We will be back with Manny every Monday at 7 p.m., God willing, going forward. Also, we're airing our own fights. A lot of them are replays, but they're fantastic fights. You guys can watch those on Wednesdays. And then we'll be doing an interview with a fighter every Friday or somebody in the fight game. We've got a really exciting fighter coming up this Friday, so definitely tune in. But that's all we got for you, knuckleheads. Until next time, keep it clean.
Keep it clean, baby.
Me and Manny, we're out of here. Have a great one, guys.